Same thing happens here. There is an audience that is moving off of old platforms and moving into newer, like modern architectures, and we can definitely ride on that trend with this idea, because this can be the Shopify of the SaaS building blocks.
So I have this really, really, really annoying thing I want to talk about, and I think there's a huge product here. I don't think this is a micro SaaS. I don't think this is a bootstrap business necessarily. I think it might be a startup. It could be bootstrap, but never mind. So who doesn't want to start a SaaS business, Tom?
Everybody wants to start a SaaS business, and everybody and their sister wants to start a SaaS business.
Now, I have a question. If everyone wants to start a SaaS business, why isn't there an easier way to create a SaaS business? Because what does creating a SaaS business entail, right? It entails you need to do a lot of development, right? You do user management. You need to do a CRM. You need to integrate email. You need to hook up your API with that authentication of the user management you had before. Maybe you want to have enterprise grade stuff like compliance and role management and all this, like tons of things that are always duplicated. You always have to write them from scratch, right? You have a few software here and there that try to solve one of those things, one of those verticals, but there's nothing that does all of it. Now,
correct.
I was thinking, this sounds super similar to e-commerce, right? What is Shopify basically? Shopify said the same thing I said about e-commerce. They were like, why would you want to build the landing page and all the billing and all the inventory management if we can do that for you and you just focus on the bare essentials of the e-commerce website, right? Do the marketing, get the best quality products, and just focus on that. You don't need to do the rest. John's saying basically the same thing for SaaS. So the title of this is probably going to be something along Shopify for SaaS. Now, that's the basic idea, Tom. Do you understand where I'm headed to?
Oh, I definitely understand, but I think the viewers and the listeners would be happy to kind of discover it by themselves. So I'm going to let you do it.
Okay. So just to make sure we're on the same page, I want to show you a few competitors, because there are a few competitors in the space, and I think it's important to talk about them and say where I think the niche is. So the first thing I want to show you is the closest to this idea, and this is Outseta. I hope they say it that way. And basically, it's an all-in-one membership software. So they're trying to provide everything, which is kind of the idea I have in mind of payments, authentication, CRM, email, all those things. And they are actually also looking at SaaS products, but I don't think it's their main user base. So if I go down and look at it, they say that they replaced MemberStack and ChargeBee. They have authentication out of the box, a CRM, an email, help desk, blah, 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 all these things. Now, this is very cool and nice. The problem I have, and the reason I know about these things, is because I'm building SaaS software here and there. So I'm looking for something to take care of this. So I was looking into them, and I have a company that's incorporated in a jurisdiction where Stripe doesn't work. So I can't use them because they only work with Stripe. And the big issue I have, the main issue I have, is payments. I don't want to deal with payments. I don't want to think about hooking all that up. I want to deal with my basic, SaaS offering. So the second thing I looked at is actually just that vertical. So I think it's an Israeli company. They're called FrontEgg, and a lot of people told me about them. But again, they just look, from what I understand and what I looked into, they look at the user management, authentication, authorization, the management.
Actually know FrontEgg very well from having tried to implement them in the past. And they are very much single focused on like the authentication and user management side of things. They don't really deal with all of the more like the other building blocks of a SaaS business.
Yeah, like they won't provide me a landing page, right? I'll need to integrate them.
Even if they do, all of the other marketing stuff around it, they will not provide. So a CRM, for example, they will have like a list of all the people who have authenticated and stuff like that, but they will probably not be CRM level tools there for you to do stuff with them. And essentially, the difference, I think, between what you're talking about, stuff like FrontEgg, is the vertical of it. So you're talking all-in-one, not verticalized software. And that all-in-one should also be not tied to a US-based payment provider like Stripe, but a more international one like Paddle or what have you.
Yeah, exactly. And the second thing is, the big thing is, they don't help me with payments, which is exactly what you said. They're not an all-in-one platform. I want a Shopify. I don't want to hook all these things together. I want the Shopify. I want to click start. I want to open my page and have it. So they're also out of the window. What's the next thing I can do? The next thing I can do is buy a SaaS starter kit. Okay. And that's what most people do. And I'll just show you like an example of one of them. So one of them that
I'd actually counter before we continue. I'd actually counter by saying that most people just build by themselves and not buy a SaaS starter kit. Just go ahead and build the same thing over and over again and get stuck with it for weeks or months without building the actual thing, which gives like a larger lesson, I think, to everyone who's ever interested in starting a business. Focus on your core competencies. Focus on what you do really, really well and other people can't do. And all the rest, just do something else with it. Like buy a starter kit, use a service, use some other person's ability to do it, but don't build it by yourself. But I gotta stop. Your hair looks like shit. What the fuck happened, Nick?
Finally.
Like what? I just noticed, like, what the actual fuck? What's going on there? The lighting was weird, and now I can see it. Is it fucking gray? What's going on?
It's bluish. I don't think the camera is getting it. I'm in Korea, so in Korea, be Korean. That's the idea. But yeah,
you are the farthest
like
away. You're the farthest thing away from a Korean as can be, essentially. So like, I'm not seeing it. No, sorry, no.
Okay, so back to what we're talking about. I completely agree. I think people are wasting their time coding their own, templates or boilerplates for these things, or buying these boilerplates. Now you'd ask me, okay, if you buy a boilerplate like what I showed you before, I'll show it again. What's the problem with that? You're like getting all of the code already ready-made and everything. Yeah, it's nice. They're giving me authentication, subscription, all these things, a blog, email templates, all the R&D costs, so-called, but it's not actually what I want. With a SaaS starter template, I still need to program. Oh, yeah, I do need to program less, but I'm still programming. And I don't want to program and integrate and think of, how do I take what this person built and has a lot of opinions, and I have to code with their code and figure out how to integrate it with my application. I want a hosted solution. I want something that I only have a webhook if somebody bought it, and like all these basic things, just the bare essentials, so my application works. Maybe I have a JWT token. We can, like, there are different ways of working with it, but I don't want to do anything that's related to the boilerplate and coding. I want the hosted solution. So now we're talking about the actual idea. So what do I actually want? So I want a website, a platform like Shopify, where I register. I can open my own SaaS website, specifically tailored for SaaS. I have payments, but not just SaaS templates. And this is the differentiation between Outseta. I think that Outseta, from what I've read, are weekly, monthly, or yearly payment plans. They don't have usage-based from what I looked into. So I think SaaS, especially APIs and all the AI hype that's going on right now, all these types of SaaS companies will want to do usage-based pricing. And so I think that should be a core competency for some platform like that. The second thing is, I'd like to have like templates for a landing page, or a very easy way to connect it to Webflow or something like that, of an industry standard, and have all the emails, the CRM, the help desk, all those things bundled together under my domain. And then what do I actually want? How do I connect it to my application? Basically, my application, let's say it's an API, okay? It's a weather API. So if a person wants to use it, they need to have a token. So I want that hosted platform to take care of that. And if the request from that platform gets to my service, I don't need to check anything. I don't need to deal with the billing. I don't need to deal with the users. It's already authenticated. It's like a proxy that already did all those checks of if the user paid, if the user has enough usage, and all that stuff. So, and on that platform, I would like to be able to customize it a tiny bit for the user, right? Because the user will also be able to log into that dashboard. So I want to show them basic graphs of like their usage, have an ability for them to purchase more usage credits or whatever, have them be able to contact the support and stuff like that. That's the basic idea. Now, how do you have any question about?
Yeah, so I just want to make sure that I understand. I'm a founder. I want to build a SaaS business. I want to go into your website or this service, and then I click a button, and then I get all the building blocks that I need, including international payments and all the other stuff that will be required for an international founder. And then I can use all of them just by, like, I pay for them just by the amount I use them. Is that the core idea?
The idea you're touching about, you're touching the pricing now. I think you should allow a free tier that allows you up to like 10 customers for free.
Yeah, but put aside how we'll bill for it and how we'll pay for it. I'm just asking about the general idea first and foremost. I go into a website, it's like Shopify, I can build a store, but instead of a store, it's a SaaS, all the building blocks of SaaS. And then what I inject into it, my value to it is the actual functionality of the SaaS. Like it is like, it's like a drawing application, then I build a drawing application, but everything else is taken care of for me.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, cool. So that's the thing. And then the way you charge for it is by usage based. Essentially, you only pay for what you use, and you have like a generous free tier that you can go ahead and like play with to start off with, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I like
all
it.
that taken care of.
Mhm.
Yeah. I can talk about how to build it also.
Yes, but I think it's going to be a little bit of a longer episode if you dive deep into how you build it.
No,
Can you
just
like give a couple of minutes? Okay, cool.
Yeah. Payments, I would not use Stripe. I would use either Paddle or Lemon Squeezy. They're both payment providers that are different than Stripe in a way that they're payment processors. So they also handle the VAT and all that kind of taxes and annoying stuff, and they're open to a lot more countries. So I would use them, and that way you're also taking all of the competition from Outsera because they only support Stripe. That's one thing. In terms of how to build this kind of platform, I would build it using Vercel's template, which I'll show you. It's a multi-tenant full stack application, and it's a platform starter kit. So can you see it right now? The platform starter kit landing page?
Yes, indeed. Go ahead.
Okay, so it has also like a GitHub repo that has 2.7 stars, and it allows you to connect subdomains and domains to different parts of your application. So it's the same application, it has just multi-tenancy. So I'd read into that and use that. So that's the basic building blocks of how I would use it and build it actually.
So I have a lot of go-to-market comments about it. The main thing I want to talk about is, well, two things really. First of all, how the whole wave of AI impacts this thing and how it can be used in the context of AI, but I'll talk about that later. But just getting it to market right now, think about who wants to build SaaS businesses. So I'm thinking of two different audiences. First and foremost are people who are, founders who want to build this thing from the ground up. Podcasts like ours, exactly, our audience applies to them. So I would look for people like us, yay, and try and sponsor and talk to them and just like be in the mindset of these people. I think it's the highest ROI. Just kind of go in front of the audience, try some announcements, some sponsorship, stuff like that, and just get that out there. But I want to talk more about the other set of audience here, which is, I think, people who are rebuilding stuff. And you have to keep in mind that there's a lot of software being sold nowadays. So software companies and SaaS applications being sold who are building on top of old architecture or older architecture. And it might be, if they're already doing a migration from one language or one platform to another, to also do a rebuild of the kind of the building blocks. And using something that's continuously updated and mostly managed outside of their scope might reduce the cost of building something. So if the core product idea has materialized and is now profitable and makes sense, take everything else that the person who built the company you bought originally built, scrap it, focus on the core functionality, and use this type of building block service for all of that.
Can you give an example?
Yeah, so I know a guy who bought a company that does like, I talked about drawing earlier because they have like a very specific niche diagramming software. And the entire thing is built on top of ROL, so we'll be on Rails, which is a terrific platform, but it's very niche. Not a lot of people know how to build and maintain Ruby on Rails applications, which eventually led to him having a high cost of development. Now, most of the thing is actually built in JavaScript. The diagramming stuff itself, the core bit, is JavaScript. That's common language. Everybody knows it, very easy to hire for. But all the backend is in Ruby on Rails. And that essentially made the fact that the backend developer will just maintain a bunch of old shit that's used for like infrastructure is the higher cost of development in comparison to the front-end developer who actually builds the product. So I think that just scrapping the backend and migrating over to something like this with like a one-time project, and then having somebody
like a standardized way.
yeah, exactly, to have somebody like do it for you, that would be great. Also, this company that you're just suggesting now might also offer professional services as like maintaining and like upgrading a bunch of stuff inside their architecture, like for migrations, for example, which might be an excellent revenue stream. Essentially what I'm saying is this can be very good for migrations, for people moving out of old and like cumbersome platforms.
I think it's the same like Shopify, right? Shopify is a lot easier and more standardized than a lot of these niche, old PHP e-commerce.
But I do want to mention something that I know about. I know the Shopify ecosystem very well, and there's actually a different move there. A lot of people are afraid. So Amazon sellers, a lot of people are afraid when they're selling on Amazon that if Amazon for some reason cuts their like display or whatever, then they will not be able to monetize their website. So a lot of people are migrating from Amazon to like their own custom website, for example, on Shopify because of that reason. So there's a market out there for people who are wanting to move off. They have a good brand on Amazon and they want to also move on to their own website outside of Amazon. Now, there's a discussion on whether or not it's easy to do. Essentially, it's very hard to do, to move out of Amazon to your own brand. I'm not going to go into that. But there is a crowd over there building on Shopify. So there are Shopify builders who are monetizing off this trend of moving off of Amazon and into your own store. Same thing happens here. There is an audience that is moving off of old platforms and moving into newer, like modern architectures. And we can definitely ride on that trend with this idea, because this can be the Shopify of the SaaS building blocks world, which I love. Right, focus on. And also it brings you credibility, because this will be existing brands moving over to your platform.
Mm-hmm. Cool. I think that for marketing, I agree. I think that the second move you talked about with the migrations is probably a second step. It's not the first step I would do for the marketing. The first thing I would try to do is try to get into the integration spaces of software you're using, right? Because if you're going to use Paddle or Lemon Squeezy, I would look if they have some kind of partnerships or integrations you can work with them, because they would love to have something like this, right? They want more people paying and using their systems. So I would look into getting into their marketplaces. And the last thing is, I think this is the niche I would start with is indie hackers. It's just the best place to start, right? Everyone there wants to start a SaaS. They're usually solo founders or just 2 people or 3 people. They don't have the time and infrastructure and resources to build all this infrastructure. So just provide it for them and let them run with their focused business. They don't need to touch all the rest of the things. That's the way I would look at it. Maybe I would give even like a big discount for indie hackers. So instead of like 10 customers for free, you get 20 or something like that.
So I actually disagree with you on this one. I actually think that moving into where money is a better idea. It will be a longer, it's kind of counterintuitive for people who haven't done B2B sales ever. But in B2B sales, business to business sales, it's very common to have design partners, or people who are like getting access to your software for free or for a limited cost, and they help you build out the certain product. I think that focusing on the migration crowd is just a lot of money. So you would be able to get a lot of money easier. And if you show once or twice that you do migrations well, the next migrations will flow, because a lot of those people know each other. They're company buyers.
Yeah, but I'll tell you why I don't agree with that. I agree that B2B, like the B2B idea and the big money is the right direction, but I think you need to start with a beachhead that's easy. And I think those migrations you're gonna be a service provider at that point, because those are big companies and you'll need to build all those specific features for them. You're never gonna have a mass product. You're gonna have a very tailored for them product, and I think that's a danger. I think I would start with the indie hacker group, and when you have enough people there, your product is gonna be more polished and better, and then you can open up to new horizons, to bigger customers and more money. But I think it's very dangerous to go on the B2B side from the start.
So I think that this is a core difference between you and I. We look at the world in a very different way. I actually think that being a service provider for business companies may be a great business for an indie hacker, but it's not cool. It's different. So let's hold it.
You might not also create a company that way. You'll create a service. But that's
again, to be mindful of time. Let's put this aside. We can do a whole episode about B2B versus not B2B. Also, maybe you fix your hair by then, because you look like a grandpa. But until then, thank you very much for watching, everyone. Have a great rest of your day, and stay tuned.